entertaining you with St. Paul. Thank you so much for joining. I'm starting my usual Thursday afternoon session. So all this video, by the way, I'm trying to save and then I'm publishing later on YouTube. So then I've been asked a couple of questions to address in this session, but then if there's something new you want me to address, please do let me know. I just slightly adjust the camera, I think, so you can see the piano. And please forgive the drilling, it sometimes happens here in London. So I was asked a couple of questions. The first question I was asked, which is quite big, to talk about breathing in piano playing. Because of course, as pianists, we sometimes forget how important breathing is and how we can actually use the breath in our playing. Because for example, singers, they use breath all the time. Thank you for joining. Hello. And so here it's quite an interesting, I've made quite a lot of experiments, again, because I'm coming from yoga perspective. So I try to join my knowledge, which I acquired doing yoga and obviously piano, because I've been playing since I was 4. And a couple of things with, if we know how to manage our breath, we can really create amazing things on the piano, and I'm sure on other instruments as well. But right now I'll show you on the piano, and if you play other instruments, you can try it on other instruments. So the first aspect, which is the most important, you know, when people say, oh, I don't feel the rhythm, or I don't know how to make it so the rhythm is even. So I always say, try to find the tempo rhythm of the piece, the rhythm of the piece, and then connect your breath to it. So for example, Claire de Lune. So what I'm doing here, on the first bar, I'm breathing in, on the second, out, and then in, out, in, out, and that creates really natural flow. And that creates really natural flow, so the playing becomes really part of your own being, because if everything we do with the breath, it becomes part of us. Or you can do it with the faster, something like this. So what I was doing here, I'm breathing in, out, in, out, in. Half a bar is hard to talk, breathe, and explain. But what I'm trying to do, one bar I'm breathing in, 1 bar I'm breathing out. Sometimes it could be 2 bars, and it's entirely up to you how you want to breathe. You're just trying to have some kind of pace, and this is very important. And then usually when you start doing stuff like that, the whole aspect of, oh, am I playing in time or not in time, goes out of the window, because you're playing organically. You know, no one, if we want to have something where the playing is exactly matching metronome marking, I always say, well, why don't you use electronic piano and use software? But if you're an artist and you play your own music, that's what it's really good to go with the breath. So even with Chopin, in Chopin we have a lot of rubatos, right? So people always ask, how can we do rubato? So something like this. I would do in, out, in, out. Actually, I have to say, I've just changed my opinion. I think I'm gonna have a longer one. In. Yeah, it's much better. 2 bars in, 2 bars out. Because then it flows much better. Out. In. Out. In. So this is really good. So basically what you do 2 bars in, 2 bars out, and then and it's also establishing the flow by itself, so you don't really have to think much. So that's how fundamentally I use breathing as one way of using breath. And another I want to say, so how we breathe, because of course it depends on the music. If music is slow, okay, one thing, we should never breathe from here. And I think you know it, but I just was saying, because if we breathe from upper chest, it can create hyperventilation, you get stressed and you have all sorts of problems. You don't want to have this. So we always breathe from the diaphragm, but then we can decide, either we breathe in a lot, because with some music we don't have time to breathe so much. So it can be very, very subtle. And if you are doubting or not sure, I will show you can do it. If you can do it with me now. Just put your hands on your diaphragm, right? And then you do breath in, you see, diaphragm expands, and breath out. And again, in, out, and again, in and out. And then when you do it like that, when you play, you don't have that much time. So you can do very slight movements, but it's still very powerful and it works. So I showed you 3 examples. Again, just remind you, I showed you with Claire de Lune, where you do. It depends what speed you want. And then you can change. You can one day you can do 1 bar, one day 2 bars. Out. Yeah, every 6/8 here I would breathe, for example. On the fast one, again, on the fast sometimes it goes more or something like that. So here, I think I used to breathe again 1 bar, but some days I breathe even for 2 bars. So experiment, and you can try it on any instrument. But piano is very convenient because we are very free. You know, if you play violin, you have, or cello especially, it's a little bit harder, but you still can do it. So again, guys, if you have any questions, please do ask, because I don't know whether you are performers or whether you're music lovers, so I'm just answering the questions I've been asked. So that's one way of using breath. So I use breath a lot in playing, and then this kind of takes the pressure out of thinking, oh, am I right speed, or am I maintaining the speed, because you go with the breath and you can't get it wrong. So another way of breathing I'm using, and it's very important, it's not so much breathing, maybe I would just mention it a little bit, but it's connected with the breath. I use a lot of abdomen when I play piano, but because I believe if we can lock the abdomen at the beginning of the phrase and have it slightly engaged and then release it on the culmination, then it creates much better flow in the music. But what some people, they and I'll show you in a second, but what some people, they make a mistake because they think, okay, if I'm holding my abs, then I can't breathe, or I'm breathing with this upper part, and of course this is not great. So again, I suggest if you train all the time, or you go to gym or do yoga, you know how to do it. But if you don't, just try to engage your abdomen and then still breathe from here. You see? So I don't want the breathing to be jeopardized by you holding an abdomen. But the trick is that sometimes you can hold the abdomen if you want to create the phrase. For example, so I held it for these 2 bars, and it was like a phrase going on one line, and then I released it, and then I engage again, release. basically that's another way of doing it. So you are operating with your abdomen. But if I'm gonna play something loud, but I don't know if the iPhone speakers can take it, so I don't want you to have it crackling in your ears. But it's a good example. Anyway, you'll get the idea. If you play something really dramatic and you want to create the flow, so again, you engage in abdomen and you keep it engaged at the beginning of the phrase. It's Rachmaninoff. What it does, it creates fantastic support for maintaining this phrase and for building up the tension. It comes naturally, you don't have to think how to do it. Also, when you engage abdominals, in yoga we believe when we engage abdominals, it makes us quite clear, it gives us clarity, it gives us stability, so it gives you a sense of control of what you're doing on the piano, which is always a good thing, especially if you're playing something a bit more intense. And so this is how I use, but then while I'm doing it, so I tried it with a couple of my students, and the side effect, what didn't work at the beginning, they were holding the breath. So this is what I want to say. If you engage abdominal, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to hold your breath, not at all. Another piece, I was just thought about it now. I wanted to show you, if you know Philip Glass, music of Philip Glass, and some people say, oh, we can't play it because we get tired, it's all repetitive, like something like this. So combination of the breath and abdomen, and if you do it, you just basically you start floating, because his music all about he want to get you into this trance and you're going to start your meditation. And again, here I use two, I use actually three, but also use wrists, of course. But in terms of what I'm talking about today, I engage my abdomen here. At the same time, while I was doing it, my breathing was like this: in, out, and in and out. But of course, this is challenging if you never work on your breath, because you really need to. It's not like you in. You see, if you doing a process of breathing in, you need to stretch it for quite a long time. And here I was stretching it, so I mean I'm quite trained, but maybe many of you are as well. But it's very easy to learn, but if you never done it, it very unlikely would happen straight away, because you need to learn very slowly expand, really slowly to match the music, and then slowly breathe in. So it's really fun to work like this. Again, anything we work which involves our body, our playing becomes natural, becomes a part of us, and therefore piano playing or anything you do stops becoming like external discipline. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And another question I was asked, I was always asked for more exercises for shoulder release. I think I showed you already 4 or 5 in the last couple of sessions, so I don't want to repeat, but I thought I can show you another fun thing. Yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, or maybe we've done this, I don't remember, but anyway, I'll show it to you now. You take a yoga block, and what you do, you bring it above the head, and what it does, it immediately releases the tension in the shoulders, and you hardly touching it. And then you're doing it again, bring it up over the head. So when you do it, the only thing you need to watch out your ribs, so you don't have this case scenario and your lower back is not going round. So you need to have a lower back quite straight, and the ribs again brings them in. And what it does, it's a fantastic lengthening, and it literally, look, it takes a couple of minutes, and then this already gives you a fantastic release. And then you can stay, and then if you stay, you can lengthen, 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 and gently release. This is amazing. Oh, I feel great. So if you, I suggest you invest in yoga block. I think it costs about £5, £6. But you can use the books. The only thing, the books are heavy, and this is a very light, but it's very light and very kind of structured object, so it's very easy to do various things with this. Sometimes what I do when I practice, by the way, because you know, for the alignment, again, in yoga we always say like the knee has to be above your ankle, and I put, I don't know if you can see, I sometimes put yoga block on, if I don't use pedals, for example, I put here, because it really, if I really want to work on alignment, this is quite a good way to practice. And then you can do your scales, you can do stuff where you don't need, because it's really works on a really good, it kind of encourages really good piano posture. And again, when you have a yoga block, because it's so firm, you can really connect all four corners of the feet, and it creates a very different energy in the body. So I'm about to round up my session. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, so far there is no questions, but if you any questions, feedback, let me know. I'm trying to be live when I'm not traveling, and when I have access to the piano. I mean, when I'm not traveling, and because when I travel, have access to the piano, I can still go live. But maybe I can do a couple of things actually without the piano as well. It was very nice. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you next week at the same time. Thank you. Bye.